right on cue. But even earlier in that offseason, if you remember, they had that thing where Jesse brought up the quarterback competition earlier. The Chargers game, it was the tipping point. If you remember, the plan Tim Ryan and Greg Papa told us before the game was Garoppolo plays a series, Lance plays a series with the starters, they reinsert Garoppolo. Remember, that's what was supposed to happen in that order. Garoppolo's first series, he throws the 3rd and 15 interception off of Brandon Ayuk's hands. Always throwing the point. Coincides with Brandon Ayuk going into the doghouse. If you want to guess whose doghouse he's in, be my guess. I have a guess on whose doghouse he was in. It was Jimmy Garoppolo's. Besides the point. And my evidence, well, the year before, Dante Pettis, when he said every effing time versus Cleveland, that was kind of the end of Dante Pettis, had a pretty strong game. His only good game, non-rookie, against the Rams next week. And that was that. So that was my evidence for that. But, oh, holy crap. Holy tangent, man. Holy tangent. That's too much tangents even for me, man. That's too much. I'll get back to it. The point is, either way, they were supposed to do that, right? And Garoppolo never came back in. Lance didn't do too well with the starters anyway. Then they did that stupid 2-quarterback switch-up thing that Shanahan was like, oh, it was just all a game. Like, why did you do that in the 3rd preseason game against the Raiders? I have no clue. And then it all culminated with 2 things happened, right? The first drive of the season, Jimmy butt fumbles the snap from Alex Mack, excuse me. He doesn't catch the snap cleanly. They fumble. They start the season with the turnover. Then the next drive, they have an excellent drive, and they get to the 5-yard line, and Shanahan had basically, it's a schemed up touchdown. It was a touchdown to like pad up the stats, make the golden boy look good and all of that. And the team probably didn't go for it. And that's where I do think there's the biggest issue with the move, and I think Jesse touched on it, is one, it's Shanahan thinking prospectively rather than thinking about the process. But I think, 2, the biggest problem is I think Shanahan underestimated his power and his sway versus Jimmy's sway, if that makes sense. Like, I think Shanahan thought he could strong-arm the team the way Harbaugh strong-armed the team into believing in Kaepernick over Alex Smith 10 years ago. And he really couldn't do that because he reinserted an injured Garoppolo into that season 2 different times. He could have made the same, I talked about it on Twitter today, he could have made the same move in a different capacity that Harbaugh made with Colin Kaepernick in 2012 after Trey Lance played in that Texans game. He could have done it. He didn't do it. He went back to good old reliable Jimmy Garoppolo, who needed thumb surgery, needed shoulder surgery.
They hedged. I mean, this is what happens when you're trying to serve 2 masters at one time. You're trying. You knew you wanted a rookie quarterback or a quarterback on a rookie deal so you could keep Bosa and keep Ayuk and keep Debo and have this roster. But then you also wanted the players to go along with it. And I think they may have misgauged the popularity of Jimmy within their own room. And then it's like, hey, we don't want to go against the entire team. But they hedged. And if they had, I agree with the Mitchell and Ness. He said Lance, having Jimmy on the team the first 2 years, it felt awkward. It did feel awkward.
Absolutely.
We probably should have ripped off the scab. That, if you make an evaluation and move on. I mean, even now, they've made the evaluation that Brock's their guy. Jed said it. John said it. Kyle said it. But they still are in this, but then here's Trey, and then here comes Darnold. Here comes Brandon Allen, and we don't know, and who knows. And so, it's like, they've gotten kind of caught in between on a few of these, and it's burned them. And now they're in a real tough spot because now their window is starting to close. And I'm sure Dr. John and Jed are like, hey, it's time for us to win a Super Bowl. Kyle, right? Time for us to win a Super Bowl. And Kyle's like, yeah, there's no question. And that's why they're in on Brock so hard, because Brock happens to fit their current urgency and timeline. And I don't think anything's changed about Trey. And I think it's ironic. I think it's interesting that so many people are like, Trey's a bust. He's a bust. Come on. My God, we haven't even seen it yet. It's like seeing the opening credits to the movie. We haven't even seen the movie start, and you're already telling us it's the worst movie of all time. Can we see the freaking movie? You know what I mean? Seriously, maybe it sucks, but can I see the movie before you tell me it sucks? That's where I kind of feel like we're at. We're seeing the previews of future movies, and we're all sitting there with our popcorn, and we're being told that the main movie already sucks. And it's like, it may suck, but it may not. And I think the common sense that people have is saying, you know what? Brock is the better guy and he probably should play. But over here, to banish Trey or to sign him off as a bust is way premature. And it's just, it assaults your sense of fairness. And that, at least for me. And so that's why they're in a weird spot now. I think we'd all not what this conversation is revealing to everybody is just kind of the weirdness of their current predicament.
And I want to say this too, and this is why I've tried to say it multiple times, and I'll say it again. The situation now with Brock Purdy and what they're doing, and Larry, you said they're in between again. Don't make the same mistake with Brock that you made with Trey. Like you've already made that mistake. If Trey's not the guy, that's fine. Let's move off of it and let's be done with it. But don't then also hedge with Brock Purdy. I think that is so unfair. If Brock Purdy's your guy, then go all in as if he's the guy. Do everything you can to instill confidence in him, that it's his job. Nobody else is here to take it. There's nothing that he can do to lose it. He is your guy, and move forward with that. Because if there is any doubt and he gets injured and somebody comes in and plays good, and now you're doing this back and forth and who should start when he's healthy, and all that's BS. Stop hedging. Choose a guy, move on with that guy, and let's just move forward. Be behind him. You got to be behind him. If he's your guy, be behind him. The one thing that frustrated me, and it was the strangest thing, as soon as Trey Lance was started, why was he not on every program? Why was there still, outside of Levi Stadium, why was there still a big poster of Jimmy Garoppolo when Trey Lance was the new guy in town?
Yeah.
Those little things send messages. You don't think these players see that? You don't think they're smart enough to read through that and be like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I'm walking into the stadium. I was just picked number 3 to replace that 40-foot poster of that guy. Why is that not me? You don't think that psychologically that doesn't play games? All that stuff. Purdy should be on every program. He should be on every poster. He should be on every promo. If he's your guy, get rid of all the other people that could potentially be the guy and move forward with him, period.
So 2 more things on this topic. Then I want to read the super chats and get us all out of here. Thank you, everybody, for supporting. Make sure you're liked, subscribed on all 3 channels. We had a lot of people in here today. This was awesome conversation. Shout out to both you, Larry and Jesse. Now, so the first thing is in terms of committing to Trey Lance, I have a conspiracy theory that I just thought of. I want to run it by both of you. Then I have a second point on why I think Purdy's the exact kind of guy that they like. I think part of their affinity for him is that they can hedge with him because of his draft status and all of that. He always has to be the guy that has to overcome something. And then I'll get to the super chat. So the thing I have as a conspiracy theory, if you remember before the draft, what was the infamous line in the angry Kyle Shanahan presser? When asked if Jimmy Garoppolo would be on the team the next year, he said, I can't guarantee if anybody will be alive, right? It was a pretty rude thing to say about a player who had just taken them to the Super Bowl as the starting quarterback a couple years ago. After the draft, if you remember, Shanahan did 2 things. One, he apologized for saying that. He said he never wanted to come across saying that about Jimmy or talking that way about Jimmy. But then 2, he completely had changed his tune on Jimmy Garoppolo. Before the draft, Shanahan was adamant. Why did you make the move, Kyle? Well, we evaluated our team. We felt we needed a starting quarterback. Huh? Why do you think we made that move, right? That was his answer for all of it. It was an aggressive. It was, we made the move because we needed a starting quarterback. The moment they drafted Trey Lance, what did he say? Well, we have a starting quarterback on our roster. Well, we have a guy, that's kind of hard to beat out and all of that. I wonder if when he gave that presser and he said that about Jimmy Garoppolo, a lot of people were like, yo, why'd you say that about him? What the fuck, Kyle? Why'd you say that? And I wonder if moving off of Jimmy in that moment became that much more difficult because they felt like if they moved off of Jimmy, the team would feel like they disrespected Jimmy and they might have lost the room right there. I wonder. Just watching that entire 180 flip happen, I wonder. Last thing on Brock Purdy in regards to the kind of guy they can hedge, I think they like that about him. I think they like the fact that he's a 7th-round pick and he's very underpaid because I think they can do these kinds of things with their quarterback. One thing they have shown as an organization, and I think it's a Shanahan thing, is they don't put the quarterback really on a pedestal. They make him a part of the team. They want the quarterback to operate right. They don't give the quarterback as much attention as other teams. They don't market the quarterback as other teams. They want the quarterback to be part of their team. And I think it plays into their stars, right? The Niners tight end is talked about more than other tight ends. Why? Because he doesn't have a quarterback stealing attention from him. The Niners wide receivers, Debo and Ayuk, are talked about more than other wide receivers. Why? The quarterback's not stealing attention from them. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, these guys, we talk about these guys as superstars because the quarterback doesn't steal attention from them. Jimmy Garoppolo played that role of not taking attention away from the team, but being a cog in the system and still being a leader perfectly. That's not a role that the number 3 overall pick that you spent 3 first-round picks to, because you've already put him on a pedestal. Once you gave him that, once you use that, he's already on a pedestal. He can't be this version of a cog in the system and a guy. I think that's what they missed out on. They need their quarterback to play a specific role. They don't want to highlight it. I think Brock plays right into that because at the end of the day, he's small in stature and he didn't have lofty draft expectations. So therefore, even if you bring in a Sam Darnold, even if you bring in this guy and bring in that guy, nobody's going to say, hey, why are you doing Brock Purdy wrong that way? And Brock Purdy's not going to be like, well, I deserve to start. I was the number 3 overall pick. You brought me in with the intention of making me the starter because he's earned every strike. He earned his way onto the roster. He earned his way as the backup. He earned his way to play. Like everything for Brock Purdy has been an earning process. And so I think from that standpoint, will they do the same mistake to Brock Purdy? I think they absolutely will. But I think it also is a better reason why he's their kind of guy, because they can do this to him and he can put up with it, because they did it to Jimmy, and Jimmy was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And they did it to Trey after 3 first-round picks. With Brock, there's no pedestal there.
It's an interesting thought. I mean, I personally think that they wanted 2 things, and Brock checks both boxes. They wanted a quarterback on a rookie deal so they could surround him with a ton of talent. He checks that box. And they wanted a quarterback who could make plays late in the down and have escapability like Mahomes has, like Josh Allen has. And Jimmy wasn't that guy. And Brock has proven that he is that guy. I mean, Brock may have better escapability than Lance. Lance might be the bigger, stronger athlete, but Brock's got that 1-5-4 10-yard split. And when you watch him play, if there's one thing about his game that is surprising, it's that you can see him escape rushers and show a little bit of like what I call kind of high-end scoot. He can get away and make plays late in the down and extend plays. And I think they saw that in Mahomes. They saw that in Josh Allen, and they said, give us some of that. And then they also said, hey, I want that quarterback on the rookie deal. And now Brock just checks both boxes. And as far as how they're handling Trey now, I think it's a little bit of save face. Like, everybody knows what they invested. And I don't think they want to throw him out there and have it revealed that he's super raw and not ready to play, because it comes across like a quick, obvious deduction that, hey, they failed in their evaluation. I think they're being a little guarded of him and maybe a little guarded of themselves with how they handle him at this point. But I think the real commitment was to the 2 things I mentioned: quarterback on the rookie deal, quarterback who can make plays off schedule. Brock checks both boxes. They're all in on Brock.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick before we go to Jesse?
Yeah.
Because that point that Larry just made of they don't want to put him out there unless it looks a certain type of way. If we have another, 20 minutes on the show, I have another deeper thing that we can talk about to that.
Jesse's in the Eastern time zone.
There. Jesse, it's up to you. I'm going to let you rebut to Larry. Maybe I should read these poor donations. I'm the worst producer / host / whatever. I haven't been reading them, but oh my God, this one's juicy, Jesse. You will love this one. This is pig in a pickle right here. This is what Larry goes.
It's midnight Eastern.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm fine with it. I do want to touch on something that Larry said, and this is not against anything that Larry said, because I don't think he made this point, but it reminded me that a lot of people have started to kind of make this point and have total revisionist history. We were talking about all the steps that they took to go here and how they potentially made mistakes and how they should have turned the team over to Lance right away and all those things. A lot of people, when Shanahan and the team came out and said, hey, the whole thing here is we like the cheap rookie quarterback. everybody's like, yeah, see, that's why they drafted Trey Lance. That's the only reason, you know, that they traded up to 3 and they thought he could be the guy and he was on an inexpensive contract. And now they got that in Purdy. That was not the plan.
No.
Again, every plan up to that point was Matt Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and then Aaron Rodgers. None of which were cheap. None were inexpensive. They were all proven. They were all very good.
By the way, all of which who have signed historic quarterback contracts since they were traded, right?
Exactly.
Stafford got a historic contract. Watson did. Rodgers did as well.
Exactly. And they were willing to pay out the wazoo for any of those guys and didn't care. So the plan has not always been, but this is what can be frustrating about being a fan of the 49ers or even being a content creator is you start to call out some of those fallacies and everybody's like, no, I mean, you just got to buy into what they're telling you because they buy into everything that's being told to you. No, that was not the plan when they drafted Trey Lance. That's not why they drafted Trey Lance. Just like the injury thing is not the only reason they moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. They moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, due to injury, but also because he wasn't good enough. They knew he wasn't good enough. Right. They took the ball out of his hands all playoff run. Then they saw it exposed again in the Super Bowl. They knew he wasn't good enough. Then you compound that with injury. The inexpensive quarterback was never the thing. It was just moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. So all this revisionist history of, oh, well, now, see, I mean, Brock Purdy's cheap, Trey Lance is cheap. They redeemed themselves. That's all that it is. It's all revisionist history. That was not the plan ever. And this is the first offseason we've heard of this said plan that they want the inexpensive quarterback.
Right. It's their pivot, right? It's their sell of what happened. We were successful, so let's just sell what's happened as, well, we kind of had a plan, and it didn't work to our plan, but we had this vision.